The Big 12 Conference opted not to have a media preseason poll this season because last year, Arizona State was picked at the bottom and, of course, went on to win the conference and compete very well in the college football playoffs. So what I wanted to do today, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun, if the Big 12 won't do it, you and I should do it. We should put out our Big 12 preseason poll. So I've got one. You've got one. I think I would like to let you go first. Let me throw up your Big 12 preseason poll, and you talk us through why you picked some of these teams in the way that you did.
Yeah, well, at the top, I have Texas Tech, obviously a breakout team in 2025 on top. Baylor at number 2, Arizona State at number 3. So I'm reading this off because there's so many damn teams in this conference now. Kansas State at number 4, Utah at number 5. I view there as being sort of a clear top 4 contenders in this group. Utah 5, TCU 6, Iowa State 7, Kansas 8, BYU 9. Now I want to touch on BYU in just a second, but Houston, Colorado, Cincinnati, Arizona, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Central Florida. So I think that, again, you really have to look at it in tiers. I view the top 4 as being a tier unto itself of the top contenders in the conference. I view Utah and TCU as kind of being swing cases, but all of the top 9 teams being capable of winning the Big 12. When you get to 10, I mean, I think that Houston is a high upside team that really could force their way into the top half of the Big 12 if some things work out. And when I look at the bottom, I mean, in UCF, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Arizona, it's just completely new rosters, essentially. And so a lot of unknowns with those programs right now. But for me, I do have Texas Tech versus Baylor as my Big 12 championship game, with Texas Tech winning in a butt bowl that we're not going to get in the regular season this year.
Absolutely. So I like where you're going with this. I'm going to throw mine up here in just a second and just tell you, I also tiered mine, but I've got a couple of big differences with you clearly. So here's my poll. And so I agree with you that Arizona State and Baylor should be towards the top. Dude, for me, so much of evaluating college football is, do you believe in the coach and do you believe in the quarterback? So you'll see for those first 4 teams on my list, I absolutely believe in the coach. I absolutely believe in the quarterback. Texas Tech, we know what they did in the transfer portal. We know how they've built this roster. You wrote that excellent piece that we talked about last month. I don't know if I believe in that quarterback. I don't know if Baron Morton is really good or really mediocre. I'm not sure. So that was kind of the factor for me. But here's how I tiered it. I think those top 5 teams could all be the favorite to win the conference. Kansas is my swing team. Utah through BYU on my list. I could see finishing top 3 or bottom 3. Like, I literally just have no idea how they're going to come out. TCU is probably the team I'm most underrating here, but forget about them. I hate the Horned Frogs. And then Houston to me is a swing case between those two. And then the teams in red here are my teams that I just think have no shot. Like you said, complete roster turnover, totally unsure of what they're going to look like. Tough sledding for them. So let me click a couple graphics here since we've got the we got the one-man crew, and we'll throw up both. Oh, that's the wrong one. Hold. There it is. Maybe. Boom. There's both of our lists in all of their glory. So the biggest disagreement, I think, between us is Iowa State, Shehan. That was the first thing I noticed when I looked at the list you sent me versus kind of my list. I mean, they get the quarterback back. I know they lose 2 really talented receivers to the Houston Texans, but man, like Matt Campbell, Rocco Becht, like, tell me why you've got Iowa State all the way down at 7.
Well, it's interesting, right? You mentioned trusting coaching staffs and trusting quarterbacks. And those are 2 very valuable things to do 100%. But I think that sometimes analysis can err too much in that direction. And so I believe in Rocco Becht a lot, but his context just changed dramatically with 2 NFL receivers, like you mentioned, heading off to the Houston Texans. They have turnover also in the secondary, which was the best part of their team last year. Now, I expect them to be better against the run because they dealt with a lot of injuries in their front 7 last year. But so much had to go right for them to ultimately win 11 games, have the best season in program history. And all of a sudden now, I just don't see where that dynamic play is coming on offense. I really like Chase Sowell as a receiver coming over from East Carolina. And I think Xavier Townsend is considered to be a pretty high upside piece there. But even if both of those guys are all Big 12 players, they could still have downgraded at the wide receiver position. And the other piece with them too, and probably the swing thing for me, is I don't know whether they're going to be able to run the ball with consistency. And if they can't be good down to down running the ball, I just think they're going to have a really tough time when they're playing against some of these better teams in the Big 12.
That's fair. I think for me, it's like there's been a consistency with Matt Campbell, and I'm talking a little bit out of both sides of my mouth because I was kind of making fun of Pete a couple weeks ago for ranking Campbell the number one coach in the Big 12. I think you ranked him number one in your recent rankings as well.
I'm a big Matt Campbell fan.
So I think there's other coaches who've won conference and national championships in the conference, but I digress.
Well, most of them aren't coaching at Iowa State University.
Correct. But regardless, like it just I don't think a Matt Campbell team finishes 7th. That would really surprise me. The other one that I think is such a wild card, and I've got them at 8, you've got them at 11. I could literally see Colorado competing for the championship or winning like 2 conference games. What's your read on the state of Colorado right now?
Yeah, I don't see them as a team that can contend for the conference. I think that when you look at the way that they've structured their offense over the last 2 years, it was a lot of almost playground ball, right? With Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, and a really good wide receiver core in general, bailing them out in a lot of cases. And by the way, they still have a really good wide receiver core. I just don't think that they have a quarterback who's going to be able, now this is me talking out of both sides of my mouth, kind of diminishing the quarterback, but I don't think that they have a guy who's necessarily going to be able to make something out of nothing. When I look at Colorado, they lost a bunch of offensive linemen again. They brought in 9 new offensive linemen. They have their 3rd straight year with a new offensive line coach. I think that situation is going to be a mess, and it's either going to be Caden Salter, who's not really a run-around kind of guy. He's a running quarterback, but more of a designed running quarterback, or it's going to be a true freshman in Julian Lewis. So I just don't see the upside for that offense just because I don't think they'll be able to protect well enough. Now, defensively, I think they will be not just improved, but like potentially pretty good. I think that 11 is frankly pretty decent respect. That's probably a 4-5, 5-4 record in Big 12 play, potentially, depending on how things go. That's plenty to me. I think they're going to be right there fighting for bowl eligibility. I expect them to get there, finish, with 6 or 7 wins. I just do not see real upside for this team with the amount of talent that they lost.
Here's my last question on this side of things. So we both kind of have this bottom tier that features, I think, some really well-respected head coaches. In particular, I'm thinking of Willie Fritz at Houston, Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State, and even Rich Rodriguez and Scott Frost coming back to West Virginia and Central Florida. Like, even some of these bottom teams, you could look at a Rich Rod team and be like, man, could they sneak up and finish 5th, 6th in the conference? Like, it would shock me, but maybe. Which of those programs do you think has the best shot to really elevate out of this bottom group this season?
Well, the irony is that I'm actually going to lean on the coach that I probably feel worst about in the conference, and that's Scott Satterfield in Cincinnati. When you look at so many of the other teams in the bottom tier, it's literally brand new rosters. Like Oklahoma State has 65 new players on campus. West Virginia has 60 plus new players. UCF has 50 plus new players. Cincinnati is the one team that's actually in the midst of a multi-year rebuild, and they're on the back end of it. And when you talk about teams that have a chance to jump up in the Big 12, it's going to be teams that have some level of experience and returning production. Now, the big question for them is, I think, less their roster, which I think has some pretty good players. They're better at wide receiver. They've got a great quarterback in Brendan Sorsby, and defensively, Dante Corleone in the middle of that defense is as good as it gets in college football. The question is the coaching staff. The question is whether they're going to be able to get the best out of this team. Because I'll tell you what, if you took Chris Kleiman and his staff and put them in charge of Cincinnati's roster for this season, this might be a top 5 program in the Big 12 in 2025. The question is going to be, can they get out of their own way? Can they be more disciplined and make it happen?
Man, I didn't even think about Cincinnati as one of those teams that could pop, but you've halfway talked me into it. Good stuff.